One. What's up, Saucy?
How are you, Nordo?
I'm doing good. Enjoying beverages on what is it, Wednesday?
Yeah, Uda pills,
O-
KFAN.
Obviously.
Hold
It's
on, I
a,
can't hear myself. I'm switching headphones again. This is stupid.
okay. Well, for those of you watching via Facebook or one of our show pages, KFAN.com, that's
Much better.
Meatsauce putting his AirPods in. I'm Nordo from 9 to noon. And in lieu of having anything to do socially at this point, we decided just to hang out on a Wednesday night and chat football, maybe make fun of each other a little bit and try to get through this quarantine together. So thanks for tuning into this. What's up, Saucy?
Nothing, man. It's late on a Monday night. Normally I'd be in bed, but the draft's 8 days from today. We had a weird rumor that came out. There's a lot to talk about, man. So I'm like, I'll stay up for Nordo, and I'm gonna have a water with you. But yeah, there's a lot, man. There's a lot of weird things going on. That's why I love draft week, because it's so much smoke that you can't believe any of it. Like now
Yeah.
they're talking about the possibility of Tua Tagovailoa falling into like the teens. Like, all right, like I don't know if that makes any sense, but whatever.
It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. But,
I think
the
though, if he gets
terrorism on his
past,
injuries.
yeah, I think if he gets past 6, somebody always falls. Somebody always falls where they shouldn't be. The thing that I keep reading on Pro
Yeah.
Football Talk, because my quarantine doesn't involve, two beautiful girls like you have, and I got a lot of spare time. But Pro Football Talk said yesterday that there are a lot of people, and it could be a smoke screen. That's why I love this time of year. Half of the stuff's made up. But there are a lot of people concerned that they can't get their physical hands on him with their doctors. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of people who are like, man, he's had a ton of injuries. I also think there's a team on the East Coast that really wants him to fall to about 12 or 13, and they can load up, and New England can move up and get him. But it'll be fun to see in 7 days.
Absolutely. Now, the longer that we do this, are we going to do this more than once between now and draft day?
I mean, I do it every night. I got nothing to do.
Okay. Well, I'm trying to set up how TV guys, they have their little sports rooms now.
Yeah.
Like what would you put in your sports room? Like I got Aaron Gleeman's book, the Big 50.
Yeah.
That's sweet. And then I have a Tommy Boy bobblehead. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
Right. Yeah, I don't really have a sports
I have
room
no
either.
awards.
Yeah, I don't have anything cool. I mean, you've been to my place. I've got, I got
Well,
really nothing.
you got that swing back there.
I do have that swing, but we're going to leave the swing out of here. But,
Oh, sorry.
yeah, I don't have anything cool, man. I thought about setting up a draft room or something to make it look neat, but I live, obviously, breaking news. I live by myself. I have nothing up on my walls. I just kind of live as like I do.
Yeah, I got you. So how pumped were you when you heard or thought about or speculated what having Odell Beckham Jr. on the team would sound like and look like and feel like in 2020? I know you were pumped about it.
Well, so I saw it. I got back to my place after the power trip and then the after party and the game we played with you guys, and I'm just awful at. And I saw it pop up on Twitter, and in this, like I said, this time of the year, all these stuff just pop up, and I think what we learned from this today is, I think it's just people trying to figure out what they could get for him. But as I said because of course, anytime something like this breaks, I'm like, all my buddies they text me constantly, and they're like, "What's happening? What's happening?" And for about a half hour, when your guy Paul Allen talked about it, I'm like, well, it's not true, because if he's not going to talk about something that isn't true. And then he, right before you guys did that great interview with Richard Park, he tweeted that whoever he talked to said it was false news. The problem
Yeah.
is the rumor won't die. Everyone keeps talking about it. Everyone. And then I've heard this, the guy who came up with that came up with or tweeted the whole thing and whose source told him that it was like a second to fifth. He said,
Moose.
Moose is like, I'm not going to make this up.
Right.
I heard it from somebody. I love it. I think it's, I don't know why a lot of people don't like it, because I think they think he's a giant diva. But as your guy said, if he can play, you got to find a way to do something. I'd even give up 25 for him, but that's just my thought.
Yeah. The thing for me, though, I mean, and the moments where we chatted positively about it was under pretense that Zimmer and Spielman, final year of deal, weird offseason, teams desperate because they lost a bunch of starters. They need a spark into 2020. OBJ would certainly be the biggest of sparks, but he is a diva, and he is going to be a jerk. And after a year with Pat Shurmur with the Giants, oddly enough, he's traded. And now Kevin Stefanski, who's new head coach of the Browns, I wonder if he and Shurmur have ever communicated, considering the relationship they had in Minnesota.
Yeah,
you
good
think
point.
He wasn't a topic of conversation or texts or phone calls or coffee at some point. I don't want him on this team, man. I don't want that headache. And, people considering whatever a headache Diggs was and what he gave us on the field, I think, first of all, I don't look at Diggs as really the ultimate diva per se. I think he's a little more understated than that. But Beckham Jr. is on a whole different level. Now, he's better than Diggs, and we know what he can do at his best, but he's already showing a tenuous relationship with Baker. What's going to happen halfway through the season if Dalvin leads the league in rushing and Beckham doesn't have the preferred number of targets that he puts in his head while still making $14 million, by the way. So not even considering the contract problems associated with it, and maybe having to give up like Anthony Harris, who I want on this team, I'm out on that, man. Best of luck to him in Cleveland or wherever. But I am with you, though. There had to have been, whether it's at least on the Browns side of some sort, conversations about like Stefanski as the new head coach. I just don't want to deal with this BS. Let's figure out a way to unload him. But a second and a fifth next year, man, I'd probably do that.
Well, and the other thing too, though, that of all the comparisons and all the other things that I've thought of during the, a lot of people were texting me, asking my opinion on it. Of course, I'm a fantasy guy, and I'm a video game guy, so it's not my headache I'd have to deal with, but you and I have mutual friends or associates that we know that work for the team and all that. We don't want them to deal with it. But here's the thing with Odell Beckham Jr. that the reason I want him on this team. One, a second round pick. Let's say it's this year. It's just for a number. It'd be the 58th overall pick. I'd trade you the 58th overall pick for a proven Pro Bowl wide receiver every single time. And what happened? There was a wide receiver that used to play here that was traded 3 times, and the third time was the charm. His name was it Randy Moss? Randy Moss was traded. He was considered a malcontent. No one wanted him. The Raiders gave him up for a 4th-round pick, and he broke the wide receiver touchdown record. Now, I'm not going to say that's the same thing, but you also come to a point in your life where you stand around and if you're Odell Beckham Jr., you go, do I want to be known as a diva my entire life? He wants to continue to get paid. If the Vikings bring him in and he's just a disaster here or wherever he goes, I'm not even saying here. Let's say they trade him to Miami and he's a disaster down in Miami. Then what happens? Then you're going to be on your 5th team and whatever. I mean, if I don't think it's dead. I just think that where there's smoke, there's fire. And I think there's a conversation that is going to be had before the draft, especially as these guys, all these mock drafts that are laid out, and the Vikings know they got to get a wide receiver. Getting a wide receiver in the first round, as you brilliantly pointed out today in your game, the guys that have been drafted since 2015, there's 1 Pro Bowler.
Yeah.
All those wide receivers are going to be gone by the time the Vikings pick. If you could flip 58 and a 5th round pick, and then you get an offensive lineman and a corner at 22 and 25, let's play. I mean, I know it sounds bad, but this team needs something. Hell, this country needs something. Not that that's going to light up the country, but like the state of Minnesota needs a spark. Like there might not even be football this fall. And just the hour that we had today in a weird world where there are a lot of people who aren't as fortunate as you and I who are, unemployed and are waiting for the stimulus check and all that. There was an hour today where you didn't have to think about that. And that's the beauty of sports. Hell, I do it. And I'm gonna keep speaking it into existence, man. I'm gonna bring it up tomorrow on the power trip. I'm gonna ask your guy multiple times tomorrow about it. Yeah. I want it to happen. Who cares? This team's an 8-8 team anyway. With him, they catch some lightning in a bottle, and he agrees to be a good guy, and he wants to be here. Hell, who knows what could happen? He's better than anyone in the draft, and he's better than anyone they could get in the next 2 drafts. I'd do it in a second.
Yeah. Now, first of all, I'm with you 100% on the ability to think about sports and not have to think about real life. We've been living that dream for a number of years at the Fan, no doubt about it, but you're out of your mind. I mean, the concept of the state needing a spark and that spark being Odell Beckham Jr. I mean, my God. I mean, be careful what you wish for. And, neither of us have done the research on it, but I mean, I'm over the concept of troubled wide receiver at multiple destinations finally hits home with 3rd or 4th location. And even Randy ended up wearing out his welcome in New England. And that came without a Super Bowl as well.
That's right. Yeah.
So, no, I dig it. It's cool to be excited. I'd love to watch him play.
If it happened
I'd love the good times.
It'd be a sweet montage you'd put together.
I would do a montage, and it would be fantastic.
But think about it. You'd be so pumped if tomorrow, Saturday, or we break open Saturdays with Sauce noon to 2 this Saturday. We'll have Charch and PA again, and we get to talk about Odell Beckham Jr. for the whole show. It'd be sweet. And I don't.
Well, yeah, because that's a great escape. I mean, we don't have to think about anything. We're on absolute cruise.
The spark this community needs is everybody back working and all that. I just meant from it'd be a great distraction.
Oh, true. No, you don't have to explain yourself. I knew what you want.
Would you do it for 25? If Cleveland called back tomorrow and said, we'll take 25?
Well, hang on. Yeah, jeez. Can I talk out of both sides of my mouth?
Of course. Yeah, that's what this is all about. I mean, we got more to talk about with the draft and all that, but
So the toughest thing associated with it is I don't want Anthony Harris to be part of the compensation, because then I started thinking about money.
Yeah.
There's 4 years left. There's all of that. See, now I want him.
Well, and you said, Nordo, you're the one who leads this brigade all the time of the cap's going to go way up in next season. Who cares if they're paying him $14 million? They would have paid, Diggs about the same? Who cares?
No,
it's great.
I'm not mad about him making that money. And you're right. The article I read was if everything ultimately in 2020, from a TV deal standpoint, the cap was supposed to take this massive jump in 2021, like $30 million, which helps out when you're trying to re-sign Dalvin and maybe something like this. So I'm not necessarily worried about the money, other than just looking at where they are now. I know that at one point Stefanski wanted Anthony Harris, and they couldn't make the compensation from a draft pick perspective work, so they picked up your buddy Anderson Dejo, trying to make football violent again, and now he's a Brown. So maybe the swap is it's Odell for Anthony Harris, and we get Sendejo in the mix or something like that. I might do that.
Yeah,
no, I want Anthony Harris for a long time on this team.
Yeah, I'd like both of them, but I just think it. But the other thing too, Nordo, is okay. Let's say perfect scenario, they get Justin Jefferson at 22. Okay, let's say he's there at 22 and they take him. And then you got him and a couple of other unproven guys and Adam Thielen. All you got to do next season is double team Adam Thielen. And Adam Thielen's one of the better wide receivers in the league, but he ain't, there's a lot you got to do. I think adding a great veteran, Tajay Sharp, he is what he is. He's making basically league minimum, and he was all right. But, you got to do something, and I think it may be that. Now, who knows if they hit a home run and, we're sitting here a week from tomorrow and pick 15 comes along and all of a sudden we see that there's been a trade and the Vikings move up and they snag Henry Ruggs or one of those guys because they're just sitting there. Who knows? But that's why this time of year is fun.
Absolutely. So when we were texting earlier today, you mentioned that the concept of trading up for wide receivers. Now, where's your head on that? Because I looked at some previous trades and figured out where the compensation might be at. Again, it's also, that changes maybe year to year. Yeah. But I have an idea of how to get into the mid-teens and what it might cost. And my question to you is, who would you go and get?
Well, I think the thing that you
regardless
keep
bringing of position,
up, yeah. What'd you say? Sorry.
Regardless of position, maybe.
So my big thing is, and you and I've talked about it. I think because after all these mock drafts and all this reading and watching NFL Network basically all day and ESPN, and they do a great job filling it with all this draft stuff. I think that 4 quarterbacks could go in the top 15. I think Jordan Love somehow either somebody trades up for him, because I think there's teams in the back half that don't want to wait and they'll move up. So anyhow, with that being said, I think 3 will be taken in the top 5. And then I think somehow Jordan Love sneaks in there 14, 15. I would move up to get Andrew Thomas or the Louisville Becton.
Becton, yeah.
I'd move up to get Ruggs, Jefferson, or Lamb, and I would move up to get a C.J. Henderson. That's about it. But There's also a ton of mock drafts that you see, because the hot rumor in the draft is Justin Jefferson is screaming up these draft boards. I've seen multiple mock drafts from reputable people. Now it's a mock draft. Who cares? But that Henry Ruggs is available at 2020 or 21 where the Eagles pick. If that's the case, the Vikings leapfrog them to 20 and make the move. I think he's one of those guys they'd want. I'd move up for a certain amount of people, but as you're going to show us, you can't give up 25 to get one guy.
Right. That's the toughest thing, and that's where I'm going with this. I would not trade up to grab a receiver. Because as mentioned earlier today during 9 to noon, Marquise Brown, N'Keal Harry, DJ Moore, Calvin Ridley, Corey Davis, Mike Williams, John Ross, Corey Coleman, Will Fuller, Josh Doxson, Laquan Treadwell, Amari Cooper, we like him, Kevin White, Devontae Parker, Nelson Aguilar, Rashad Perriman, Philip Dorsett. Those are 17 guys, and one of them is a Pro Bowler.
That's
the last 5 drafts.
That's 14 borderline busts.
And so the issue that I have is with this draft, it is a deep draft, but where are the people screaming from the mountaintops about it being a legendary wide receiver draft? That's true. So Ruggs is lightning, and I like Jefferson a ton. He would be my second or third preferred guy. CeeDee Lamb's really good. Judy's awesome. I get that. But as we saw it in 2016, where a smart team in the New Orleans Saints just chilled until the second round and found a diamond in Michael Thomas, I think that's an opportunity for the Vikings to potentially do something similar in the second round this year, because I still look at it as a very deep class, but not a legendary class. So that's where, for me, if the Vikings are going to trade up, and I'm starting to get hotter on the idea of, if you get to those mid-teens, and you mentioned, it's Becton. I don't think Wirfs will be there, but let's say he is. Or Jedrick Wills even. I mean, some of these athletic, high-end tackles, if you have the opportunity to go up and get them, then maybe you do it. And so here's where you go, Saucy. 2018. Baltimore traded back from 16 to 22. Buffalo traded up from 22 to 16. They flopped first-rounders, obviously. All Buffalo had to give up was an early third-round pick, and Baltimore actually gave them a fifth-round pick. Right. So they flopped a fifth and a third. If that's what it costs, and you have the opinion that one of those guys is your left tackle for the next 10 years, then whether it be via Zoom or Facebook Live or by email, cell phone, whatever, from your bunker, you're jumping up and down in your grundies, and you make that play, and you get that guy. So I don't know where the Vikings stand on these guys. You know, you've gone through them a lot too, but I'm starting to get hotter on trading up for a top-end tackle if they love one of those guys available.
Especially, Nordo, as you know, with those two third-round picks, even if it's 80, is it 89 that they have? 89 and 105?
Something like that, yeah. That sounds right, actually.
Even if it's 89 and 22 to go to 14, 15, or 16, yeah, absolutely. Even if it's 89, even if it's 22, 89, and a fifth-round pick to get to 13, I'd do it. I'd do it in a heartbeat. I mean,
absolutely.
they're not gonna go from 22 to 10, but 22 to 14, 15, and 16. If that's all it takes, and you want to get one of these, I think you'd have to. I think Tampa picks 14 or 15. I think you'd have to get up in front of Tampa because I think
Tampa's like 14.
Yeah, if you get 13, maybe a little tough. But you can get up, and even if it's Tampa, if you can convince them to go back to 22, I don't know. I think there's a lot of teams that are going to want to dance in that area to move back. I'd do it in a second.
Absolutely. Now,
plus you have the 2 third-round picks. Of course you do it.
Cheers. Drink break.
For sure.
Absolutely. Are those your shoes behind you? What do you got back there?
I don't know. I haven't looked.
Pretty basic. That's all good.
Yeah.
Looks like an obsession.
Yeah, it is. But, I don't have children, obviously, except for this one.
Muppet. The things she's seen you do.
The things she's going to see me do in about 20 minutes. Too far. That's stupid.
Hey, there are so many things that the team can do at 22 and 25. One of them is trying to find a defensive end of choice. And that's what we were texting about earlier today, too. Kind of, you can't do everything, right? Like, you can't come out with Justin Jefferson, Mekhi Becton, a defensive end, and C.J. Henderson. You can't get them all. So at some point, rank and find your preferred route. But the Vikings, this is something we've gone over. I mean, corner in the mix, and then it's a chicken or the egg thing from a pass rush perspective. Do you have to get the corner? And if you get the corner, does it mean you have to get the defensive end? This is a lighter defensive end class on the top side of things. So how do you approach that? Is that a need?
Yeah, I think you can fill defensive end and defensive tackle, which I think you could also argue this team needs. But they have such a great their defensive line coach, who's now the co-defensive coordinator. He's such a great Andre Patterson. He's such a great player. Now, who's the kid from LSU?
Caleb Chase on.
Yeah, what a great spot if we could get him at 22 or 25, and then who plays the opposite of you? Daniil Hunter. Where do you play? LSU. You want to let him down? You want to, talk about motivation. You want to let the school down? I mean, what a great person to have teach you the ropes, who was a third-round pick who made a splash because, AJ brilliantly posted a picture of him and how ripped he was, and he looked like Superman. And then they mold him into arguably one of the best defensive ends in the league. I like defensive end. I don't know enough about like some of these Big Ten guys, but I like the LS. I always like guys from giant programs. I'd take, if we got out of this draft with Christian Fulton and then Jefferson, any LSU guys I love, because that team was so dominant and they beat great teams and they beat a lot of them handedly. I like players from LSU, but I think defensive end, I think if you came out of 22, 25, and 58, and then 89, with any combination of a corner, a defensive end, a wide receiver, and an offensive tackle or guard, I think you'd be in good shape.
And so I'm with you there. I'm super infatuated with AJ Epinesa and Yetur Gross-Matos. I brought him up.
Really? I don't know anything about them.
Well, they're good at stopping the run. They're 4-3 hand in the dirt type guys. Gross Matos, I think, kind of got not a bad rap per se, but
Didn't he
from a
have a bad
stats,
combine?
well, they both did. That's why
Yeah.
they're not. That's why we're not talking about having to trade up for them. These are guys that are probably going to be available. And so I don't know where their stock is at this point. I just know that I like both of them. And I know that we need a defensive end. And we need the defensive end that is good at not only getting forward and getting after the passer, but can actually stop the run. I mean, if you look at this defense, one of its biggest problems last year was figuring out how to keep the run in check. And when things started to drizzle, started to sprinkle, it started to rain hard, and it started to pour. And that was a downfall for this defense. And so, for me, I think they need to address it in the first 2 days. And I don't know who those names are. Again, we can't do everything in the first round. We have 2 picks. We don't have 4. But I like those 2 guys. And I actually think Afadio Denabo, who's technically a defensive end, I thought he did some of his best work as a 3 technique inside. And what worries me, if we don't address from a defensive lineman standpoint earlier than, say, Saturday morning or late Friday night, I'm worried about the concept of taking a rotational guy that was really effective in his first real elongated snap opportunities in the NFL, and then suddenly saying, here's 700, 800 snaps. You're our guy now. I don't like that. I like the idea of Afadi being a guy that's that spark plug that comes in, just ruins people's days, and then go catches a bottle of water on the bench.
Yeah, I think I like stuff. I agree with you 100%. I think they're good at finding guys in the 6th, 7th round that, but PA keeps saying this over and over and over again, and he's 100% right. In the weird offseason that it is, and the fact that we may have a month, maybe 5 weeks of training camp may start July 15th and go until, the season starts. You need high-end guys. I wouldn't be shocked if the Vikings somehow take 58 in their 2 third rounds and get up to like 30 or 31 and get another high-end first-round talent who, most importantly, is cheap, and 2, has that 50-year option. They need all the high-end talent that they can get. And I think they have an opportunity to get it. Anthony Harris is in their back pocket. That's another thing they can do in any kind of trade talk. I think and back to what we started this with, if the OBJ stuff completely cools out and we see Jefferson, Judy, Ruggs, and then Lamb go like 13, 14, 15, 16, that whole thing heats up again because they have to have a wide receiver. And I don't think you take, as you and I have said multiple times, I don't think you take the 5th or 6th best wide receiver at 22 and 25 when you could have the best safety or the 3rd corner or, as you just said, the number 2 or 3 defensive end. It's the same thing with offensive linemen. We don't want – I have no idea about Ezra Cleveland, but Peter Schrager in his mock draft today on NFL Network has him at 25. I know nothing about him, just that he went to Boise State. But is that the guy you want at 25? I don't know. They got some good opportunities. I am with you 100%. I want them to jump up in the first round. I'd love to see it.
Well, the trade opportunities is something PA and I talked about, and it is about trading up. And that's not only trading up in day 3, which that's what kind of started the conversation. My idea was, why get 7th rounders when you should trade up for all these guys that didn't have pro days, the Tyler Johnson types, and feast on them if they fall to day 3.
Get 3 or 4 high-end 4th round picks.
Exactly. And now you're filling out your roster with guys that you feel more comfortable with. So I'm with you there. Last thing I had for you. What did I have?
Well, here, one more thing before you get to your last thing.
Yeah.
So this is just something to look forward to 8 days from now, and maybe I've deep dived way too much in the NFL draft, and maybe I'm a little too obsessed with it. But the hot rumor now is pick 14 belongs to the Atlanta Falcons. Is it 14 or they have 15? 14 or 15? 16, whatever it is. They want to move up to get the likes of a C.J. Henderson, the linebacker safety from Clemson, one of those offensive linemen. There's something that they want. They're a
Is
team
it
that would
Isaiah
move up.
Thomas? No,
Yeah,
Isaiah.
something like Isaiah Simmons, something like that. So there's one of those high-end defensive players that they want because their defense is hideous, absolutely hideous. So let's say that they move up to, I don't know, 8, okay? 8 or 9. Let's say they move up with Jacksonville. Let's say Tua goes at 6, and here comes Atlanta to 9, and Jacksonville goes back to 16. Then if you're Jacksonville at that point, you go, we could get Jordan Love at 22. Why don't we move back again with minute? There's always a team that keeps moving back. That's just something to look forward to. That's a team you could target to say, hey, Jacksonville, why don't you stockpile more picks and we'll move up to 16. You go back to 22, something like that.
Something you were talking about in the hallway this morning, the concept of Jake Fromm at 58.
Yeah.
Explain.
So Jake Fromm is one of these guys that got killed at the combine because he's got small hands. That was like the big thing that got out of the combine is he looked terrible at the combine.
There we go. I see now. Because you have small hands, you are rooting for a guy that also has small hands.
But I don't have the smallest hands on our show. It's Corey. Corey has the smallest hands out of anybody on the power trip. It's true. Anyhow, but yeah, probably 58's probably too high. But the thing that keeps floating around about Jake Fromm is how all these Zoom things that you and I are doing that they're now doing to interview these guys. He's killing it, and all these coaches love him. And the guy won at a super, super high level. A guy who had to Jacob Eason was the quarterback at Georgia. He transferred because he couldn't beat out Jake Fromm. Now, he went to Washington. I'm not saying this guy's going to be the next great thing, but as you and I always talk about, and Church says all the time, you got to get someone who isn't a project, somebody who 2 or 3 years from now maybe could be that guy. And I think Jake Fromm at 89 or Jalen Hurts would be sick. But Jake Fromm is a guy who I saw on NFL Network. Somebody pointed out, and he kind of got scoffed at, that he wouldn't be shocked if Jake Fromm was taken with the last pick in the first round.
Wow. Jake Fromm that high?
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, I'm out on Jake. I'm not this is a guy, by the way, protected by 2 absolute high-enders and Andrew Thomas and Isaiah Wilson on the right side. He's got a clutch gene to me. Like when he's made some huge plays, and I like that. I think his arm is mildly fraudulent. And this is, again, if we need a disclaimer, I guess now's a good time for it. We do not watch all the games. We do not watch all the All-22. Georgia constantly playing big games, however, so I've seen more of him than other players. And I'm not that impressed by him. And, after he blew up, what was it, 2016, his freshman year? Or 2015 or 2016, whatever. There was the massive letdown, and then he kind of slowly built him up his junior year. He wasn't that special this last year in 2019. So, he plays for a big program. He can put up the stats. I don't necessarily trust his arm, and I think as things speed up into the NFL, he's going to get exposed. I'm not that excited about him. So, now that's coming from a guy, by the way, whose favorite quarterback for the Vikings to draft is like some 5th round guy that no one's ever heard of. So, I probably am. I could be wrong or underselling him. I'm just not as excited about him as others are.
58's way too high. 58's dumb, but 105 or 89, why not?
Well, we're in a spot where we need so many positions that on a Wednesday night via Zoom, why not talk about all of them? I mean, ultimately, I want the Vikings to draft a quarterback. I want them to draft a quarterback that could potentially play in NFL games because Sean Manning's not going to win you games. He's going to be that good asset, the man in the back. He's never going to push you, but he'll support you, all of those things. Great teammate. That's awesome. He's not going to win you or, do anything at a high level for an extended period of time. And ultimately, when Kirk costs the team $45 million in a couple of years, they're going to have the same decision to make. And why not make that decision a little tougher or maybe in some ways a little easier by having a guy behind them that can play? And so they got to do something with them. You know what? Ultimately, if they have a bigger opinion or a more informed opinion on Jake Fromm than I do, and they take that guy, then I would support it only because that tells me that they're deviating from what they've done in the past, and it's less cover your ass at the last minute and more planning for the future, which would be a nice change at that particular position, given the L's that we've had over the last 10 years, 15,
Yeah,
20
I
years.
100% agree with you.
So do you have anything else?
Yeah, we're 8 days out. Let's say the Vikings
Yeah.
stay at 22 and 25. You don't have to give me a name, but give me the positions you think 22 and 25 will be.
Yeah, it's corner and O-line. And I've actually, since our conversation on Monday, thank God for Corey Chavis when he joins 9 to noon, because
He's
I like
so
to call
great.
him. Oh, he's amazing. And he's the guy that's almost like ashamed of the work that he puts in, so humble about it. He doesn't want credit, doesn't want notoriety, doesn't want
He's a
any of
great
that.
dude. Yeah.
But I call him about 6-7 minutes before the segment starts so that I can just grill him and ask him stupid questions. If Josh Jones is at 22 or 25, I'm okay with staying and taking Josh Jones.
Really? What did you learn?
Well, as I looked, he kind of brought me down a path where I could learn more about.
Did he go to Houston or Temple?
Yeah, he was at Houston, 46-game starter. I actually like him more than Austin Jackson right now.
Okay.
And I think that he's more NFL ready to step in and continue playing because he started so many games at Houston and only got better each and every year. He's athletic enough to run Kubiak's system. Size is certainly not an issue with him. He's not as fast as Austin Jackson, but certainly more mature at the position from a technical standpoint. I mean, the stuff that I'm reading on him, I'm now in Josh Jones mode in terms of if the Vikings were at 22 or 25. So, you know, if I had to pick it, I wish the Vikings had more first rounders so I could just pick all the positions. But I would say at 22 and 25, I'd go corner and an offensive line. What about you?
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think if it's only one of those three wide receivers that we named, Jefferson, Ruggs, or Lamb, I'm in for that. I really want an offensive lineman. I thought about maybe two of them, but I don't know. I don't think there are two of them that you would take at 22 and 25. I'd like Austin Jackson. If that other guy you just mentioned, I'm fine with. A dream scenario is they maybe move up for an Andrew Thomas, but I'm all for offensive tackle and cornerback unless it's one of those wide receivers. But I don't think there's any other position unless, this is like we started on, we can end on this. As far-fetched as it may be, they move – if Anthony Harris is part of a fake deal for Odell Beckham Jr., then safety's at play at 22 or 25.
Yeah, I dig that. What do you got on the show tomorrow?
Tomorrow we got Rosie back. We'll do Tommy's takes. We'll have Ben Lieber back. I got a draft bit that we're going to do at like 7:40 with Lieber. It'll be fun. We play a couple of games and stuff we'll do tomorrow. They'll make fun of me for not being able to say complete sentences, but we'll get closer to the draft. We'll get some steam out of Lieber. And then initials on Friday. Hopefully you'll blurt out answers instead of not saying anything. What do you guys have tomorrow?
Well, we're going heavy on the O-line and draft right out of the gates tomorrow. And then we have Charles Davis of the NFL Network, so we'll get his opinions. He just went to CBS. He's big spot number 2 analyst now, so that's cool. And Lieber in studio. I mean, we are absolutely rock hard on the draft tomorrow.
Well, we can do this bit anytime you want. I do it. I don't care. I probably wouldn't want to do it Friday, if you know what I mean. But I do it tomorrow. Obviously, we'll be on the air Monday, but I do it leading up to the draft. I do it Tuesday, Wednesday, and right before the draft on Thursday. We could even do it in studio.
This is too weird, man. I mean, I want to do it, but we need to do it because we have no social lives. We don't have anybody.
Yeah. There's something to do. I mean,
no.
I went to Target today just to get orange juice, and I picked one further away just so I would have time in my car longer.
Help me make it through
Correct. I'm
the
just
night.
bored.
No,
I'm sick of playing Madden. I'm sick of playing
yeah,
every video game I have.
I drive 15 minutes out of my way. I've done it 5 work days in a row to Crispin Green in Maple Grove just so I can get a Fiesta Bowl and just a bit of outside life. That's it.
Now, more importantly, when you get this said Fiesta Bowl from Crispin Green, here's a pro
Yeah.
move. Get the blue chips on it.
Ooh, I'm trying to not blow up to one of the motorcycle twins, so I'm actually out on chips. Now, look at those B cups.
They're huge. I'm so obese. All right. Well, yeah. I mean, we can do this whenever. I'm in. We can
All
do
right.
it tomorrow. We can, if something maybe we should just do if something big happens, we'll do it tomorrow. And if not, let's do it next Tuesday, Wednesday, because a lot of draft steam will be happening.
Yeah, let's just do it whenever and hang out and be friends.
Now, when
All
this
right.
gets like 8 people watching it, I'm never doing it again.
Yeah, correct. No,
As long as
I'm
it's
also,
and as great of a bit as Commons bit is, if you haven't seen it, go back and watch Commons Kids and him playing ping pong. If this doesn't get more views than that, I'm never doing this again.
I can agree to that. All right, perfect, man. See you later, homie.
Bye.